The March for Life is an inspiring, peaceful, and joy-filled rally of men, women, and young people from all across the United States. Every year, tens of thousands of pro-lifers converge on the National Mall and march on Capitol Hill on the anniversary of the Supreme Court's 1973 Roe v. Wade ruling, which legalized abortion in all 50 states. It is the largest annual human rights demonstration in the world. But this is not just a protest. We gather to celebrate life. Sometimes pro-lifers are characterized as only caring about life before it is born, that we do nothing to care for people after birth, particularly women. Certainly, if there are those who claim to be pro-life and do not have concern for all human beings, unborn and born, they are in need of conversion. Pro-life work is not limited to political action, lobbying, voting, witnessing on the March for Life, but also includes peaceful praying at abortion clinics, respectful sidewalk counseling for women, and supporting pregnancy resource centers, residential care centers, adoption services, and post-abortion healing programs that all care for women and children after birth. Many practice charitable giving for families in need through their church or community. But what they are unable to support is the idea that a woman can only be helped by ending the life of her unborn child. This year's March for Life theme is Life Empowers, Pro-Life is Pro-Woman. Our culture tries to claim that abortion is all about women's rights, to choose, to health care, to her own body. Many claim the pro-life position is anti-woman because we are trying to deny women their rights. In reality, abortion is often pushed towards scared and hurting women as their only choice, preying upon them when they feel the most powerless. They often feel they have no other choice than abortion and no power to change that. The year 2020 marks the 100th anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment, guaranteeing and protecting women's constitutional right to vote. The original American feminism, the early suffragists, fighting for women's rights, all opposed abortion and sought to address the root causes that drive women to abortion. These early women were not impressed with abortion as a solution, but rather saw, as the pro-life movement still does today, that abortion is a reflection that society has failed to honor, protect, and meet the needs of women. These early women clearly recognized that the unborn child is a human life, precious and in need of protection. The living principle is there from the first moment of fecundation and should be fostered and nourished and brought into the world in every instance that conception takes place. At no period can it be interfered with. Dr. Anna Densmore, 1868. There is no time in the whole process of the growth of the human body, from the moment of conception until death, that pulsations of life are not present in what is to develop into the perfected body. Tennessee Claflin and Victoria Woodhull, 1870. From the moment of conception, the embryo is a living thing, leading a distinct, separate existence from the mother, though closely bound to her. Eliza Bisbee Duffy, 1876. Life must be present from the very moment of conception. If there was not life, there could not be conception. Dr. Alice Bunker Stockham, 1887. Because abortion ends a precious human life, these women recognized abortion as a horrendous crime. The gross perversion and destruction of motherhood by the abortionist filled me with indignation. That the honorable term female physician should be exclusively applied to those women who carried on this shocking trade seemed to me a horror. Dr. Elizabeth Blackwell, 1821 to 1910. The truth of the matter is that it is just as much a murder to destroy life in its embryonic condition as it is to destroy it after the fully developed form is attained, for it is the self-same life that is taken. Tennessee Claflin and Victoria Woodhull, 1870. As much as they viewed abortion as a crime, they certainly did not advocate punishing the women who obtained one. This, of course, continues to be the pro-life position today. Rather, they saw the responsibility to be on both those providing and advocating abortion, and also on the men who, having urged them into relations, either abandon or compel them into no other choice. Much as I deplore the horrible crime of child murder, earnestly as I desire its suppression, I cannot believe that such a law, punishing women who commit abortions, would have the desired effect. From The Revolution, 1869. American fathers everywhere, the responsibility for this crime rests not with the mothers, but with you. Forgetting that your own selfish desires should be held in abeyance to your wives' behests, you often impose maternity upon them. Knowing this, how dare you chide them, when in their ignorance, terror, suffering, and desperation, they commit the blackest crime known in the psychological catalogue. Abigail Scott Duniway, 1873. Guilty? Yes, no matter what the motive, love of ease or a desire to save from suffering the unborn innocent, the woman is awfully guilty who commits the deed. It will burden her conscience in life. It will burden her soul in death. But oh, thrice guilty is he for whose selfish gratification drove her to the desperation which impelled her to the crime. From The Revolution, 1869. Recent psychology research has confirmed what these early suffragists knew, that the mindset of most women seeking an abortion is one of crisis. The woman knows, even if only at a subconscious level, that the unborn is a human child, but the unplanned nature of her situation is a threat to her own survival. Unable to see how motherhood could fit in with her self-identity, to have a baby would be a death to the life that she had imagined for herself. The choice is either my life or my child's life. The choice of abortion becomes one of self-preservation. What about adoption instead? The woman often sees adoption as the worst choice of all. Not only the death of herself in carrying the baby to term, but also a second death in being a bad mother who abandons her child to someone else. She feels forced to accept abortion as the least of three perceived evils. Her main question is not, is this a baby? But rather, how can I preserve my own life? Thus, when considering how to effectively end abortion, these early feminists sought to address the root causes and empower women in order that they might be able to choose life. There must be a remedy even for such a crying evil as this. But where shall it be found? At least, where begin, if not in the complete enfranchisement and elevation of women? Elizabeth Cady Stanton, 1868. When the marriage system is what it should be, and woman controls in these matters instead of man, Restellism, abortion, shall cease, because there will be no demand for it. Dr. Juliet Stillman Severance, 1869. When girls are given proper instruction and understand how to govern and guard themselves, when young men are taught that virtue has as high a meaning for one sex as for another, and that paternal interest in and responsibilities for a child are equal to the maternal, then the temptation to produce abortion will not exist. Dr. Alice Bunker Stockham, 1887. When we consider that women are treated as property, it is degrading to women that we should treat our children as property, to be disposed of as we see fit. Elizabeth Cady Stanton, 1873. Our pro-life message and action today must include care for the needs of the mother. How should we speak to a woman in crisis? Ask first about her concerns. She needs to feel heard and that her needs are being taken care of. Without condemning, help her reevaluate the options so she can feel safe enough to choose life. It is the choice of life that offers hope and a positive, expanded sense of self. Abortion is actually not in a woman's own self-interest, as many women who regret their abortion will attest. The early suffragists were well aware of the disastrous psychological and spiritual effects that abortion has on a woman. From the moment when I began to appreciate my irreparable loss, my thoughts were filled with imaginings as to what might have been the worth of that child's individuality, and especially the responsible posts he may have filled, the honors he might have won, the joy and comfort he might have brought to his suffering fellow creatures. I had an idea that I had lost, through that unnatural deed, the normal powers and qualities of a human being. The strange feeling of having set myself apart from the rest of my sex, through that sin against my motherhood, will probably always remain to increase the bitterness of my childless and lonely condition. I envy a mother who goes to weep beside her baby's grave because she knows where it is laid and remembers how it looked in life and is not ashamed to say, "I have lost a child." I feel like saying, your trouble is not mingled with remorse, and you are not to blame for the infant's death. Stories documented by Elizabeth Edson Evans, 1875. What I have so often seen, that the fear of injury done and remorse for the dead drives women almost or quite to despair. I find myself the mother confessor of many who want to be absolved of the mental and physical misery entailed. Many are victims of a melancholy which amounts to monomania. Dr. Rachel Brooks Gleason, 1870. Far from wanting to preserve the unborn at the expense of women, the pro-life movement is desirous to help all women and men, born and unborn alike. We share the belief of Alice Stokes Paul that abortion is the ultimate exploitation of women. We want to empower women, but that does not mean women ought to imitate those who abuse power or need to destroy men along the way. This was an untrue stereotype that was often held against the original suffragists, that they were only seeking their own power and fame, when in reality they were seeking to enrich the lives of men, women, and children alike. The assertion that suffragists do not care for children and prefer notoriety to the joys of maternity is so fully contradicted by the lives of the women who are trying to make the world a safer place for both sons and daughters that no defense is needed. Having spent my own life from 15 to 50, loving and laboring for children as teacher, nurse, storyteller, and guardian, I know whereof I speak. Louisa May Alcott, 1832 to 1888. Like these early advocates, many pro-life women of today also know true power is the power of self-emptying love, a love that is willing to live for the sake of the other. You are not powerful when you can do whatever you want. You are powerful when you are able to bind yourself to another in love. Susan B. Anthony said of her tireless defense of women, "Sweeter than to have had the joy of caring for children of my own has it been to help bring about a better state of things for mothers generally, so that their unborn little ones could not be willed away from them." This is what it means to be pro-life. The belief that all human beings have an equal right to live, regardless of how old they are or young they are, regardless of whether they live in a crib or in the womb. All humans are equally valuable, so we protect them. Life empowers. Pro-life is pro-woman.